Welcome to Helen Buster. Today we have a little surprise for our viewers. Now follow me. Dun, dun, dun. I captured an elegant lady right here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Xing, hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Where have you been during the past 2 weeks? Tell us.
I was on holiday. I spent a lot of time with my family, especially my parents, and I was chilling out. Felt great, although I missed you. So today I'm back. It's the first headline buster since I'm back, and it's another working year that's starting. How exciting! Oh, but I do miss my parents.
So, since today's topic is still about the pandemic, and last time you mentioned that you do yoga 3 times a week, right? So, can you teach us some simple gestures that we can practice at the office?
Well, it's a little bit difficult when you're wearing a dress, when you're wearing high heels. So we try something different. So come follow me. Let's go over there. Again, I think you're probably very familiar with this working area. All our guests are waiting already online. Let me just put down my.
Sure, take your time.
I take a sip. All right. So what I can think of is something simple. Okay. So there's one thing that people can do, especially if you sit at your desk very often. It's quite simple, okay? So I'm going to stretch my left arm, and I'm going to stretch it to as far as I can, and then I will bend it back to the back, right to my back, and try to put it there. And then I'm going to stretch my right hand up, and then do you see that? So the idea is you have to be up straight, right? The arm has to be pointing up, has to be close to your ear. Your head needs to be up, and you have to pull on both ways. Yeah, does that look very simple? Not so simple, huh?
It looks simple, but I know it's hard because I've done that gesture before.
Being an anchor, you have a natural advantage. Remember, we always try to pull the headset, the cable, so you always have to bring this up and try to, pull it up. So for years we did that service. We did that exercise. The difficult thing is to do the other way around. For most people, the right arm is the most used arm, so it's very difficult to do the same thing. Let me try. Look, so I stretch my right arm as far as I can, then I try to go back and up. This is where it gets really painful. I can't, you can tell I can't really go as far as I can with the red. And then I try to reach it. It's a little bit difficult. but I guess with exercise, I can get better. All right, so everybody can try? Yeah?
All right. Thank you for teaching us the yoga gesture today. I know it's hard when you are dressing like this. Yeah. So you've yeah, sure, you've done the warm up.
Okay, talk to you later. Yeah? During the interval.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay with it. Welcome to Headline Buster, brought to you by me, Liu Xin, with The Point. In this series, I dissect stories that are making headlines around the world and talk to my guests to compensate for the missing pieces of the puzzle. So do join us in real time by sending us your comments and questions via the CGTN page on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or Weibo. If you're watching this live on the CGTN application, email me at thepointwithlx@cgtn.com. Let me know what you think. We start our live streaming every Friday at 11 a.m. Beijing time, so do get in touch and write me, and I just might read out your comments. Speaking of which, let's take a look at some of the comments we've received so far. Brent Sidney said, "Why can't you people just admit the pandemic first appeared in China? That's where it became a pandemic. It doesn't matter which bat cave the virus first mutated or whether it existed years ago in the jungle somewhere. The pandemic started in Wuhan in China. That's where the global outbreak became a problem. That's where it started in China." Okay, I hear you. I think that's the opinion of a lot of people. I understand that. But let us also be clear. It is true that the first cases were reported in Wuhan, China, but we have also seen reports from other parts of the world which pose very important questions. For instance, a mayor in the United States insisted, that he might have been infected by this virus as early as last November in the United States. There have also been reports in Spain which says that wastewater samples from the city of Barcelona from March 2019 tested positive for coronavirus, and other reports similar to those. So are we going to ignore all these reports and just make assertions? Or are we going to keep asking these questions and trying to find answers? It's not about politics, but about scientific truth. Okay? Now, the house that Lee Kuan Yew built says Chinese vaccines have tiny spy bot inside, powered by 5G Huawei. Scott Morrison begging any country that has vaccine to release it. Don't trust spy vaccine from China. There are people who also believe the earth is flat. Shall we believe them? Finally, Mr. Buddha 888 says that first of all, some have legitimate concerns about the vaccine being rushed, and that's understandable. Anything that is too rushed can have defects, and that's to be expected. But when there are 7 billion lives at stake, we cannot afford to take things slow. Time is of the essence. We have enough expertise and the manpower to achieve this if we all come together and pull all of our great resources together and work together. Sadly, the whole thing with COVID-19 has been overly politicized when we should all be working together to find a vaccine. The more we work together, the quicker we can find a vaccine, and the quicker we can start producing proper vaccines enough for everybody. Why are certain countries politicizing the vaccine? Well, in an ideal world, people work together and help each other, but the real world that we're living in is far from being ideal. It's the sad truth we have to deal with. All we can do is to push for positive changes and bust headlines one at a time. That's also why this week, as the world enters its 9th month of battling coronavirus, we want to go back in time to the early stage of the pandemic and revisit some media reports to see whether they have been fair about China's response. Now, nobody can predict the future, but some of these reports not only try to do that, but wanted readers to believe they had a real point. Did they? Let's first update ourselves before refreshing our memories. As of August the 27th, the Chinese mainland reported a total of 85,013 cases. 80,091 people had been discharged after recovery, and 4,634 people have unfortunately died of the virus. Let's not forget that's for a country of almost 1.4 billion people, okay? China ranks 28th in the absolute number of deaths caused by the virus so far, according to Johns Hopkins University. Now, Wuhan, where the virus was first detected, bore the brunt of the hardship at the beginning. On January the 23rd, the central government of China imposed a lockdown in Wuhan and other cities in Hubei province in an effort to quarantine the epicenter of the outbreak. For 76 days, the people of Wuhan were in strict quarantine, while the rest of China also took stringent measures: fever checks, face masks, social distancing, you name it. All of these steps weren't fun nor easy, but they paid off. Now, earlier this month, Wuhan celebrated its victory over the virus by holding an epic pool party. It made international headlines. Now, packed with revelers, the pool party symbolized how far the city has come and what's possible with discipline, sacrifice, and cooperation. China also closed in on finalizing its COVID-19 vaccines. Now, one vaccine has already been put to emergency use on high-risk groups such as immigration officers and healthcare professionals. And of the 6 vaccines in phase 3 trials, 3 are being made in China, according to the World Health Organization. After a hard first quarter, the Chinese economy has been on a strong rebound. According to a recent Wall Street Journal article, China is the only major economy expected to register positive growth this year. And JP Morgan recently boosted its 2020 China growth forecast to 2.5% from 1.3% in April. Economists at the World Bank and elsewhere have also upgraded their forecast for China. The U.S. economy, by the way, is expected to slide 8% this year. Now, even the hobbled China-U.S. trade deal seems to be moving forward. Top U.S. and American trade officials reaffirmed their commitment to the Phase 1 trade deal in a phone call on Tuesday. According to Bloomberg, China's corn imports in July from the United States jumped to the highest volume in 3 years. So the picture has changed a lot over the past year, especially when you look at what some were saying in the media a few months back. Let's revisit some of these pieces and see how off they were. My first example, The Guardian, on February the 2nd, published an opinion piece titled "China's Reaction to the Coronavirus Outbreak Violates Human Rights." The WHO has praised the country's response, but heavy-handed approach could make things worse. The article criticized the WHO for praising China's response to the outbreak when Dr. Tedros, the Director General of the World Health Organization, tweeted, "China is actually setting a new standard for outbreak response." The Guardian piece says the WHO is ignoring Chinese government suppression of human rights regarding the outbreak, including severe restrictions of freedom of expression, and that the Chinese government can lock millions of people in cities with almost no advance notice should not be considered anything other than terrifying. Yes, the decision was hard, and yes, the people of Wuhan and other Chinese cities had made huge sacrifices, but now we see that the decision was, most importantly, effective. Not only was it effective, but it was ultimately necessary and replicated by many countries when they were faced with their own outbreaks. On March the 9th, Italy imposed a national lockdown. On March the 13th, so did Iran. One day later, so did Spain. On March the 25th, India imposed its national lockdown, limiting the movement of 1.3 billion people, the largest lockdown in history, and the list goes on. Countries around the world soon followed suit. So, was everybody violating their people's human rights? The opinion piece captures the sentiment of many others that criticize China's measures from afar, calling them draconian, authoritarian, a violation of human rights and privacy. But when the virus showed up in their own backyard, they started to see things quite differently. What is it? Empathy? Putting yourself in the shoes of others? And this was just one of the many reports that were criticizing China for its violation of personal freedom, the human rights in containing the virus. Yes, freedom is important, but saving lives perhaps just a little bit more when faced with an infectious disease. Of course, the criticism hasn't been limited to China's measures to fight the virus. Who could forget the February 3rd opinion piece published by the Wall Street Journal, titled "China is the Real Sick Man of Asia." This piece attacked China's financial markets, saying they may be more dangerous than China's wildlife markets. About China's battle against the virus, the article argues that the Wuhan government was secretive and self-serving. National authorities responded vigorously, but it currently appears ineffectively. China's cities and factories were shutting down. The virus continues to spread. Well, in hindsight, this piece is quite an embarrassment, isn't it? It quickly became clear that China's response was effective, much more so than many other countries that were more intent on criticizing China than preparing for their own outbreaks. Yes, China's factories shut down for a while. Yes, China's economy took a dip in the first quarter, a 6.8% slump, in fact, the steepest contraction in decades. But in quarter two, China's economy witnessed an equally steep rebound, growing 3.2% from a year earlier. More proof that hard work and sacrifice in the short term may pay off in the longer term. The opinion piece added that the most important longer-term outcome could appear to be a strengthening of the trend for global companies to de-Sinicize their supply chains. Add the continuing public health worries to the threat of the new trade wars, and supply chain diversification begins to look prudent. But a recent U.S.-China Business Council 2020 member survey shows a quite different picture. It says that 91% of members say their China operations are profitable. Nearly 70% are optimistic about the commercial prospects of the Chinese market. 87% said they have not moved or have no plans to move any operations outside of China. The Wall Street Journal article significantly underestimated the resilience of the Chinese economy, thus making ludicrous predictions. It is true, some politicians are trumping decoupling with China, even pushing companies who don't, or even punishing companies, who don't, or use subsidies to lure them back. But that's wishful thinking and clearly against the free market principles that capitalism is all about. When the Chinese market is the only economy to register positive growth when hit by a virus, who is really the sick man of the world? And then there was that much hyped notion that COVID-19 was going to be China's Chernobyl moment. Remember that? We've seen so many examples and headlines of this notion, different wording, but similar argument or questions that the COVID-19 outbreak could expose the incompetence of the Chinese leadership and its governance, and that the legitimacy of the system based on economic prosperity would be greatly eroded, and that the system would collapse, just at what happened after Chernobyl's nuclear accident to the former Soviet Union. Well, now clearly the Chinese system had withstood the test and won recognition by its people, according to a global survey across 23 economies jointly conducted by a Singaporean social research agency and an international online panel specialist in May. The Chinese mainland residents gave their government's response 85 out of 100, the highest in the world. Look at the number for the United States, for the UK, and for other countries. So may I ask, where is the Chernobyl moment? For whom was the Chernobyl moment? I have to be fair, though. There were people who gave China the benefit of the doubt, such as this one, an opinion piece published in the Financial Review in Australia on March the 2nd, which stood out. Written by the former Australian ambassador to China, Jeff Raby, the piece titled, "Why COVID-19 is Unlikely to be Xi's Chernobyl Moment." The article says COVID-19 could become China's symbolic Chernobyl, but at this stage it is too early into the course of the disease to say much with any confidence. Obviously, a lot will depend on its severity and longevity, and whether this leads to economic paralysis in China. This was an astute point, and as we see now, economic paralysis is far from the reality. The article also pointed out that China today is not the Soviet Union of 1986. China is a highly successful, well-functioning economy that keeps delivering even higher material living standards to its citizens, while its international standing is built on respect. And the article goes on to say foreign commentators generally fail to recognize that support for the party is genuine and widespread. His assertions are backed up by yet another recent survey. Harvard's Kennedy School conducted surveys in China, which were collected over 13 years, which suggest that over 93% of Chinese people are satisfied with the central government. Many international polls in recent years also show that at least 90% of the Chinese people trust their government. Which other country enjoy that kind of high trust? Tell me. So the next time you read a piece predicting the fall of China, take a step back, think about these facts, and ask yourself whether it is fear-mongering or whether it is a realistic question. And those who writes, those who peddles the China collapse theory, please just be a little bit more realistic and try to keep things in perspective and avoid making yourself a public embarrassment. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll talk to my guests about the impact of these opinion pieces and why they've been so off from the reality looking back a few months later. Stay with me.
You're watching breaking news on CGTN. Welcome to the world today on CGTN.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there. To see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference. Images may appear to be identical, but looks can be deceiving. The difference is not always obvious. It has to be discovered. There are always different sides to a story. We put the focus on the details. To see more, to understand better. CGTN. See the difference.
Making sense of the overwhelming wave of information means cutting through the noise to shine a light on the heart of the story and making room for new perspectives. True understanding means the ability to see events from more than one side. I'm Liu Xin, and this is The Point.
I'm me, Liu Xin. I have with me four panelists. They are Dr. Eric Ding, Senior Fellow from the Federation of American Scientists, Dr. Hua-Chen Zhu, Associate Professor with the State Key Laboratory of Emerging Infectious Diseases, the University of Hong Kong, Brandon Blackburn-Dwyer, President of Grasshopper Strategies, and Wang Cong, a Chief Reporter from Global Times. So welcome to all of you. I wonder what your thoughts are looking back at the past half year, let's say. It's really been a roller coaster ride, and it's actually quite emotional, right, for some people to look back and think about the early days of what we were going through. Sometimes it was really, for me, it is definitely emotional, but looking at some of these reports, my emotions were mostly anger. Okay, let me go to Eric first. Eric, tell us, why do you think we were seeing such fluctuation of emotions, of opinions, especially the overly pessimistic views about how China was handling this virus and how things will work out for China?
Well, I always say the worse a scandal, the worse a calamity, the more people want to finger point and find a cause, find an explanation, because many people just do not want to accept that some things were random. And in terms of our pandemic response, how well each country did, that certainly wasn't random. That is a function of leadership in many countries and the willingness for its population to listen to science. But I think people are just grasping at trying to find, well, you know, we may have dropped the ball, screwed up our response in certain ways for this, but had someone else before not done that, then this never would have happened. So they always try to go back and find the root cause. And trying to find the root cause is oftentimes where the ugly finger pointing is, because the further back we go, there's this fog of war. And today we don't know where this virus is. But the finger pointing is only going to get worse and worse.
Well, not very promising. I thought when things slowly get back to normal, or people start to understand the virus a bit better, maybe they become a bit more rational. And basically the reason why we want to do this show is to really remind people that how irrational some of the commentary were in the early stage of the virus. Let me go to Dr. Zhu. You are a scientist. We had a discussion at the early stage of the pandemic. Help us understand exactly what enabled China to bring the situation under control so fast. Is it because of the draconianness of it? Is it because of the effectiveness of the system, of the unity, the resilience of the Chinese people? What would you say?
First, I have to admit that at the very beginning, we, as the scientists, we kind of underestimate the virus, the impact of this COVID-19. So at that time, we think that we have all the experience by handling the SARS and also the different kinds of influenza, even the pandemic outbreak in year 2009. So we think that we have all the technology, science, and all the experience. We should be able to handle the COVID-19 in a very nice way. So I would say that actually in mid-January, when we realized that there are like hundreds of people getting infected, I'm also kind of like feeling angry and disappointed. But later on, when we realized this virus is nothing similar to anything that we have handled. So we see that this virus is just like transmitted in such a very fast way. Mm-hmm. And also so many people get infected, and people from different countries, they all being suffering from this virus. We realize that we are facing something completely new. So when we're looking back at the responses from the Chinese people and the government, I would say that it is so impressive and it's so moved. We are so grateful for the Wuhan people for their sacrificing their freedom for that short period of time. But I would say that when we talk about human rights, the rights means that we need to live happily, healthily, and safely. Nowadays, we have already conquered this virus, and our function has already started to return back to normal. So it is so grateful for us to say a thank you to the Hubei people and also to our government.
Absolutely, that sentiment definitely is shared by a lot of people here. Let me go to Brandon. Brandon, I want to ask you this question. When you read or when you hear about these reports that are just dissected, what was your sentiment? Do you think these reporters or these commentators, they were doing their job properly? Because obviously some of the predictions that they were making, or some of the things that they were trying to indicate were very much off the reality, especially this talk about the Chernobyl moment clearly is very different between the two scenarios. So how do you look at the fact that there was a whole host of articles, writers, who were trying to make this analogy?
Oh, I think let me take a piece of that question and talk about were they doing their job. Commentators, columnists are paid to sell newspapers, to get clicks, to get audience engagement. These are not reporters. These are not people that are tasked with the truth per se. They are not tasked to uncover the history of everything. They are there to be the peanut gallery. They are there to add their voice. They're frankly there for discussion panels, to create engagement through analysis that is going to be wrong as much as it is right. And so to go back in time and to cherry pick and to say, hey, they got it wrong, this person got it right. And you yourself acknowledge some of the writers at the time got it right. Some of them were a little more optimistic about the way China was handling it. Some of them were very pessimistic. But in any event, large or small in the world, we have such a diversified media that you're always going to be able to cherry pick someone taking some very extreme opinion that somebody's going to agree with and somebody's going to absolutely hate. And unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your view on the media, that's what they're there for. So particularly the Chernobyl one was a metaphor that I believe was driven more by the success of HBO's series called Chernobyl, that people were like, oh my God, I actually remember that happened. Maybe the rest of the world remembers that happened. And the series really creating a view that the fall of the Soviet Union was directly related to Chernobyl, which I also think is a bit of a false equivalency. It was 5 years later the Soviet Union fell. Also, for the commentators that were saying, well, it's not Chernobyl in China because it's 3 months later and everything is fine, ignores the fact that it was 5 years later in the Soviet Union. Now, again, I don't think that's a great metaphor. I don't think it's a great comparison. I think it was just popular media, and one article caught everybody's attention, and so a whole bunch of other people shoved it into their headlines so people would read their article as well.
Okay, all right.
Well, we can really...
Yeah, okay.
Right.
I get your point. You made many interesting points. Let me go to Wang Cong for his reaction and whether you agree with the fact that, opinion pieces, for instance, are just there to create the engagement. I personally do believe there is an ethical part of it. There is a responsibility part of it, because I write opinion pieces and I always have to ask myself, whether I'm being responsible, whether what I say, looking back a few months later in hindsight, I won't be so ashamed of what I said. This is one thing. And secondly, whether we were cherry picking some of the more negative pieces to bust on this particular program.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think for anybody who was following the foreign media's coverage of the initial stages of the outbreak in China, I don't think you would say there was a diversified opinion.
Hello? Okay. The connection is not very good.
Of different opinions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
go ahead.
So I was just saying that so for anybody who was following the initial stages of the outbreak in China, I think you would find it very easily that the overwhelming tone of that the media coverage is that it's very negative, very critical. I think there was no diversified opinions about what was going on and what would happen. You see that I think from the articles you picked, but it also the overall tone and overall narrative was that China was failing and that China was, violating human rights. Whatever China did was wrong. So that's the overall, I think, takeaway for many millions of Chinese
Okay.
people here that the foreign media was not fair.
Right. For the diversification of opinions on this program, I'm going to give Brandon an opportunity to react, but be brief, please.
Sure. All I'll say is,
Yeah, let me go back
agree
to
that
Brandon.
people were very, sorry, I would agree that people are very concerned and they were very critical, but we also had a president of the United States who was actually praising China about the same time that this article came out. And then a few weeks later, he was criticized.
Well, that's when he fits his political,
when he thought it was going to help him.
optics.
But again, we're also looking at human rights, and the lockdowns has continued to be a point of debate around the world. China's lockdown in Hubei worked incredibly well. We saw debates in the United States. We see debates in New Zealand where it worked really well, but people were still concerned about what it meant for the future of human rights and civil liberties. And I think we're still going to see that play out over the next 5 years as courts may take up this issue. It's not to say that people are good to be anti-lockdown, but there are some questions about how quickly it can be put in those sorts of things. The big picture here is we need to talk about what this will all mean for our societies down the road and not finger point and be a bit calmer when we're in the midst of the pandemic.
Okay, Dr. Ding, your reaction? You want to react to that?
No, in terms of where we go, I rather focus forward because how history views this entire epidemic will be how we solve it. If we don't solve it in a very fast, efficient manner, and this drags on into 2022, and deaths are in the millions, then the history will be much more unkind to every small misstep that happened along the way.
Right.
But if we solve it quickly, I think, and come together on this, I think history will be much kinder of, let's water under the bridge. We actually came together, and it's much better for what we want to actually achieve.
Okay. Not being a sexist here, but I'm really running out of time. I want to squeeze in this comment in. Maybe Dr. Zhu can react to that. Let's bring in the comment that was on the screen. Very briefly, Director, please.
I would say that is what really matters.
Just a moment, Dr. Zhu, just a moment. Let me bring in that comment. Yes, from Austin Diva. It says, you shouldn't have lied in the beginning and things could have been addressed more appropriately. All right, that's, I guess, a question addressed to Chinese authorities. Maybe, I don't know whether they're talking about local level or central government level. Dr. Zhu, a tough one, but would you like to react to that?
Okay, I would say that what really matters is how the people live in this land, how they feel. So I think that we are actually quite satisfied with the responses provided by the experts and also by the government. So we have successfully controlled this disease, at least so far. So I think that we are considering the collective interest of this whole country and people. So now we have done a good job. I think that is something that really matters, how these people feel about our response to this disease.
Yeah, okay.
So I think most of the Chinese people, we are feeling quite satisfied and thankful. Yeah.
Okay. We have to leave it there. It's a never-ending discussion, I know, but time is very limited. Many thanks to the four guests, Eric Ding, Dr. Zhu Huachen, Brandon Blackburn-Dwyer, and Wang Cong. As usual, I thank my fellow viewers for having followed us on this special edition of Headline Buster. When you make a claim, you better have facts to back it up. I'll see you next Friday at the same time in the same place. Thank you. You've got the point. Yeah?
Hello. Hi, how do you feel after the holiday? First show.
Can I take the microphone?
Yeah.
I just feel that
It's very tight.
very tight. Okay, let me try like this. Good. I'm visibly more relaxed, I guess. Have you seen? Can you tell?
Yeah.
I'm changing back into my shoes. Don't look at me. Don't look at my feet.
Don't at my feet.
All right. So, how does it feel on the show? I hope it's okay.
Still have 4 guests.
Yeah, we have 4 guests. So, any comments for me to
Yeah,
read?
sure. I just saw a comment.
It's just
not very friendly though.
Not very friendly.
It
This is
said,
like, yeah.
Every show by Liu Xing is
Yeah, it's an opinion show that I'm doing. So, yeah, I tell them when it is my opinion. I tell them it is my opinion, right? I'm not saying this is news or reality. I'm saying this is my opinion. So, all right. Somebody says I hate both Western and Chinese propaganda. I hate them. It seems like a short show today. It does feel that way too. It does feel that way. Thank you. So from Done. Thank you, Liu Xin, for presenting the fact and data in a very objective perspective. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's not just me. You know how many people are behind this show? Right now, I can count at least 15 people. Yeah, right now I can count at least 15 people every week. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Liu, how are you doing today? I'm doing okay, a bit tired, I didn't sleep too well last night, but thank you for asking. I'm actually feeling okay. From Bill Zhang, it says, go, Liu Xing, go. I will go, keep fighting. Yeah, keep it up, Liu Xing, thank you. From Davis Line, thank you. There are some languages that I don't understand. Who is best reporter on CGTN? That's right, it's Ms. Liu Xin. I would be really honored if I can do a good job. I don't know who is the best reporter. We have many outstanding reporters. I'll be honored to be counted as one of them. From USA, Dum Dum. Is the show viewable in China too? Absolutely. You can go on Weibo, which is the Chinese social media platform, very, very popular. But it's in English, as you can tell, so people have to understand English. Later on, we'll take parts of the show and put English and Chinese subtitles so people can understand in different languages. Yeah, it's a lot of work, huh? I tell you, it's a lot of work. Bill Zhang says I look more beautiful today. Thank you. I always love these comments. When will be your next vacation for fun? When will it be my next vacation for fun? Well, for the Chinese Spring Festival, which is early next January or February, probably I'll have some time off to spend with family, but vacation for fun, maybe a year later. Chucky says, we love China, you hate West. I don't hate the West. I actually think that in every society, in every country, there are good people, there are bad people, there are good things to learn, to enjoy, to share. I don't hate anybody. I just hate lies. I just hate people who want to hurt other people, and I want to fight that. Jimmy Yunming, Liu Xing, thank you for everything. We love you. I love you too. I love you too. Thank you so much for being with us every week. I really like that. And it feels like a rendezvous, right? Every Friday morning we're here. I hope you have already this date clicked on your calendar. So every Friday you spend a bit of time with us. And I really enjoy this. I used to not to like this show so much, honestly. But now I like it more and more. And this interaction is a very big part of it. Oh, missed you last 2 weeks. I missed you too. China is peaceful nation. We love you. China is a very peaceful nation. Let's try. Okay, let's try to keep peace. Let's try not to fall into the trap of war. It doesn't look very good. I think there is a lot of provocation. Let's try to be cool, try to be calm. We hate war. Please, please. no war, either hot war or cold war. Okay? I'm pro US and China peace. Yeah, why not? We can be pro every country. All right.
That's it.
Wangish Shah Mahmood Qureshi Iron Brothers. I guess this is a friend from Pakistan. A big thumbs up for our Iron Brothers. As someone said the other day, stainless steel brothers, even stronger. Okay? Good. All right. A lot of good messages. Really appreciate it. I hope you have a good weekend. I'll see you next Friday at the same time. Bye for now.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.